Where's my assistant manager?
The shout boomed from the workshop, sailing over 10 looters having a fight over a gold chain, deafening 3 grots who were operating heavy machinery and still managing to be heard by an orc, stood atop a makeshift catwalk overlooking a bay of tanks that were being dissected by numerous groups of grots and snotlings, his hands on the rails as he watched them go about their work. As the sound reached his wax-filled ears, his head dropped with a sigh.
Zog, boss wants me.
With that, he slowly walked down the walkway, sliding down a ladder as he dusted off his hands. An assistant manager's work was never done.
Calm down, boss.
The offending orc was quickly backhanded by a metallic hand, crushing his nose into his face.
Don't tell me to calm down, you squig. Can't be letting crustimers thinking we've some naff namby-pamby shoddy second-rate suppliers, can we? Garcob Gratruck puts their customer first.
The massive big mech roared, upturning a workbench and sending the grot sitting on it flying across the room in the direction of several sharp pieces of operating power tools.
You wanted to see me, boss?
The big mech turned around. In the doorway stood Lefty, his missing assistant manager. Garkob's pig-like nostrils flared as his eyes came to rest on him.
Lefty, get in here, now!
Lefty did as he was told, stepping over the dismembered remains of several grots as he made his way over to the furious big mech, barely getting within reach before a massive arm picked him up by the scruff of his neck. He made no effort to struggle, as he was helplessly suspended in the air, dragged over to the garage next door. 3 looters dropped their tools as Garkob stormed in, pulling their goggles off as they stared at him in open-mouthed shock.
You lot, out, now!
The huge orc certainly didn't have to repeat himself, all 3 of the greenskins quickly gathering as many of their bits as they could and hurriedly exiting. Satisfied that they were now alone, Garkob thrust Lefty face first into a war truck.
What's this, Lefty?
Lefty peeled his face back from the sudden impact, rubbing his head.
It's a truck, boss? Right.
The big mech nodded, content.
And what colour is it? Red?
Garkob launched him halfway across the room, his fall cushioned only by falling back first on a V12 engine.
Yes! Red!
The big mech yelled, swatting a row of bikes down in fury.
Warboss Brain Squisher asked for blue. What are you playing at?
Lefty frowned, cocking his head as he slowly recognized the vehicle.
Boss, you got my boys to paint this red, all personal like only the other day.
The mech paused, tapping the front bumper of a buggy that made up his jaw plate.
Did I?
Lefty slowly got to his feet, dusting himself off with a sigh.
Boss, did you forget you was colourblind again?
Garkob snarled, kicking open the door as he marched off, mumbling to himself.
Well, I was just testing you. That's all.
Lefty looked at the mess all round him, shaking his head as a group of orcs slowly made their way into the room, to see if they could get back to work yet without being crushed.
Oi, you lot.
Lefty pointed to them each in turn.
Clear this mess up. It's like a squig sty in here.
They grunted, and quickly went about picking up all the bits and pieces scattered about the garage. Lefty looking on with his arms folded, supervising.
And paint this thing blue when you're done. I got to do everything round here myself.
An assistant manager's work was never done. Lefty marched down one of the corridors of the ship, a large retinue of grots and orcs all gathered around him as he gave them instructions on the move.
You lot, take that off of that and put it on that instead. Boss wants the engine to sound like a squig off with a sore ass. You got that?
The orcs nodded with a grunt, heading off to their work.
Excuse us.
A group of around 6 grots carrying a missile weaved through the group in the hallway, very nearly tripping over an exposed pipe, but managing to keep upright.
Oi!
Lefty spat, raising his pointy stick at them.
You's got dropped that, and the next war buggy on the assembly line's getting grot skin seats. You got that?
Yes! Yes!
All of them cried, hurrying along to the vehicle that was in no doubt waiting to be reloaded. Lefty sighed. It definitely wasn't a bad life. His old job was counting a bad moon's teeth while he was out fighting. When he got his head removed by a thunderhammer one day, Lefty was scooped up by the brilliant inventor Kargob Grartruck, an eccentric, even by Weird Boy standards. With the big mech's natural ability with machinery and weapons and Lefty's unnatural gifts of business sense and organization, the two began gathering looters and Gretchen, who were looking for a good set of teeth all over the universe. At first their projects were small, but expensive. Kargob thought it was stupid to charge so much money for small vehicles and services, but Lefty, as a business orc, knew that others would think they were of better quality because of it, and while neither of them knew it, because other orcs believed it, it was true. Relatively soon, war bosses from all over started bringing across orders for all manners of things, from converted, looted Imperial tanks and aircraft, to shooters that would bring a tear to the eye of the stuffiest flash git, all the way to personal, gold-plated attack bikes and warcopters. Quite soon, they found they had to begin putting out looting squads all over the place, quickly gaining a reputation for being where an orc could always sell his best bits. Then they began to run out of room. This situation was quickly solved when a space hulk by the name of Light of Man was discovered by several different groups of orcs, all engaging in one huge war over who got to be the first to loot it. The gene stealers on board were promptly wiped out in the ensuing battles, and Lefty saw an opportunity in it. Having a mobile workstation from which they should deliver their goods by hand, while still continuing their work with enough storage capacity to fit even the grandest products of Kargob's imagination, was simply too much to pass up. And so when a winner finally emerged, they bought it outright from underneath him. His levels of equipment and boys completely devastated, but the war boss himself satisfied that he had a good fight, and won, and set about making it space travel worthy. Where the Light of Man was once etched, now were rusty metal beams hammered into the words, "The Chop Shop." With all the teeth he had ever dreamed of, and the protection of someone no war boss wanted to snub in case he stopped selling to them, life was good. However, he was always the first to hear about it when something went awry. Often even when he was nowhere near the problem on the kilometre-long ship they spent their time hurtling across space inside. But the other bad part, about being a brain boy, an orc that actually had some semblance of intelligence, was that you found yourself having to think for everybody else.
Lefty?
Lefty turned around, eyeing the orc that had tapped him on the shoulder, his jaw gradually dropping as he did so. The greenskin stood there, with what was clearly a brake lever with the skin from a human's arm as the cover.
I had this on me and all day. Do you know what it's for?
As if to answer the question, the roar of an engine started up behind them. Lefty spanned around.
Don't try that, you stupid git!
But it was too late. Flashboy was an orc obsessed with speed. No matter how fast Kargob could make something go, Flashboy always wanted to go faster. Therefore, Kargob had set himself the personal challenge of finding something fast enough for Flashboy's tastes, taking him under his wing as his private test pilot. A private test pilot that was now a stain on the whole wall.
Well, Zog.
Lefty stood there a moment, steadily realizing that he would get the blame for this, before vaulting up onto the top of a half-gutted Lehman Russ. The smouldering wreckage of Flashboy's vehicle only briefly registered with the rest of the orcs before they turned back to Lefty, unimpressed.
Alright, boys. Listen up. And listen up good.
The few that were there, still blaring their power tools, were slapped upside the head by those standing near them, turning them off with a buzz and looking towards Lefty expectantly.
Lately, there's been some productivity issues and all that. Well, that stops today.
The crowd mostly cocked their heads at him.
From now's on, you want a break to muck about, it's coming out of your pay. Anyone want to argue about it, you come and see me. and I can start paying you with your own teeth when I crump you and take 'em out your face.
He tapped his poking stick on the side of the tank, a grot recoiling in horror as the bane of his kind almost grazed its face.
Always clear, boys.
There was a murmur of mild agreement, answered with Lefty tapping the side of the tank again.
The boss may be half deaf, but I ain't. And I can tell you lot that wasn't loud enough.
The chant was louder now, if much more artificial.
Yes, assistant manager, sir!
Ask any of the orcs on the floor, and they would say Lefty was one of the best bosses they ever had. Probably before getting cut in half by Kargob for using the word boss for anyone else but him. But for all intents and purposes, it was true. Kargob was an eccentric, and one that only Lefty truly understood. He was massive and deadly, as well as brilliant and creative. He was also poor at managing his resources, and would have been in debt to 1,000 angry war bosses right now had Lefty not been balancing the books. As such, this has been the most stable income of many of these orcs had ever had, as well as easy access to the best gear in the galaxy. Again, assuming Kargob wouldn't kill them first for touching his things. The only thing they lacked in abundance was fighting, which was for the most part easily solved by a good mug of fungus beer and a brawl down in the fighting pits down at the ship's bottom. Occasionally, though, Lefty had to crack the whip and get them back on task. They were orcs after all, and all orcs respected at the end of the day was the biggest bloke with the biggest gob. Lefty certainly had one of those requirements. Now, what would he do about the Flashboy situation? Kargob would have gone on forever trying to make things fast enough, never realizing that the brilliant red finish he was putting onto the contraption was near enough always turning out pink. He stood, tapping his chin with his poking stick, not even noticing the huge and hulking form that approached him.
Oi! You're in my bloody light, you are!
Lefty growled, only realizing how big something would have to be to tower over him after the fact.
We's closed for orders at the minute.
The war boss laughed, clacking his power claw as he did.
After a little old scumfang come all this way, I don't think you are. You see, I'm here for something special like.
Lefty tried to gain his recomposure.
Listen, I know you probably think you wanted something dead good and all that, but let's just skip this bit, and you can go pick a bike from that line over there.
His voice trailed off, more and more orcs wearing the huge figure's colours filtering into the factory floor, right up until they outnumbered the workers. There must have been 300 of the war boss's boys with him, all, oddly enough, carrying large sacks. In unison, every single orc dumped their sacks down on the floor. Within no time at all, the entire floor was absolutely covered in teeth.
I ain't here for one of your zogging bikes, you squig.
The war boss chuckled again, picking Lefty up by his head.
I'm here to have the best thing an orc can get, to show Gork and Mork his respects while stomping all the things he can see. Old scumfang here.
He pulled Lefty closer, his claw tightening slightly on his head.
Wants a mega gargant. He wants a what?
Kargob nearly dropped the massive wrench he was using to take off a Predator tank's main cannon, the grots below him rather grateful for his mechanical grip. Lefty shrugged weakly.
I know. That's what I said. It's not like we're short on orders or anything. Loads of teeth to go round already. This scumfang has to play the big fancy bad moon and bring in all his teeth. Probably broke now.
He snorted, tossing a bolt into the air and catching it. The big mech pondered for a moment, frowning.
I don't like that look in your eye, boss. Quiet, you grot. I was thinking.
A moment of uncomfortable silence passed between them, broken only by the occasional death scream of a grot that didn't notice the faulty positioning of the automatic saw blade beneath the workbench. Finally, Kargob nodded to himself.
I say we do it.
Lefty's eyebrows went all the way up to his bald green head.
What? But boss, we've got loads of orders that we can only just about fill now. We ain't got time for something that big. Plus, we got to get all the really good bits and gubbins together and that manpower and the experts. Well, suppose you better get round to doing all that, haven't you, system manager?
They stared at each other, Lefty relenting.
Yes, boss. Be quick about it.
While he couldn't promise to be quick, Lefty could follow up on everything else. It would be the best mega gargant ever, or his name was not Lefty Tennant.